Jim, this is Roger. I'd like you two to meet.
Good morning, Roger.
Good morning, Jim.
Welcome to Chapter 105.
Thank you.
And Jim, let me give you Roger's
Okay.
641 for your review. And
May
let
I
the
just take a
counselor-
few minutes to read this?
Okay, sure.
Well, before we, if I may, would you share with me your background, your education, your work experience, what you're doing now, and what this new endeavor is all about?
Right now, I'm sort of between things. I've been working at a variety of restaurants trying to figure out what I want to do. My background, I was in the Navy. And when I got out of the Navy, I decided that I would try to get into a variety of fields. And I ended up doing what I had done in the Navy because I had been a cook in the Navy
When were you in the Navy?
about 10 years ago.
Okay. Were you land-based or sea-based?
Well, I was land-based most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy that?
Did I enjoy what, the Navy?
Navy.
Well, I was in there for 8 years, so I must have enjoyed it a
Did
little
you
bit.
enjoy the cooking?
Well, I did it because it was easy for me to do. It was sort of a no-brainer. It just
All
fell
right.
together. Yeah.
And what is this endeavor you're reaching for here?
Well, as I told you, I've been involved with restaurants in the food business, and
Okay.
I've come up with what I think is a great idea. My grandmother came up with a sauce for hot
Okay.
subs, and so I am going to try to put together a hot sub shop.
A hot sub shop. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Great Italian subs.
Okay. That's your byline, great Italian subs.
Oh, that was Grandma's byline. She
Okay.
she taught me everything I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Now,
You're-
pardon me a minute. You know, we're talking restaurants.
Yes.
Do you know anything about restaurants?
well, I eat in restaurants. That's the first.
Well, I
criteria.
eat one too, and I sort of worked in one, but I want somebody to help me develop a restaurant business.
Okay, and I think we can do that by
Okay.
what we call a common vehicle of developing a business plan.
Okay.
Because every business, some way or another, has a plan. Either they have a plan that they're working by the seat of their pants, or it's written, but they have a plan. Someone is planning something.
Well, yeah, you know, they told you I was a cook, so we always had
Right.
recipes. Is that what we're talking about?
Part of having a restaurant is having a recipe. That's part of your deliverable.
My deliverable.
Yes.
What's a deliverable?
A deliverable in any enterprise is, in your fulfilling the need of a customer, you deliver something to the customer. In this case, it would be a sandwich.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
And then along with that sandwich, there's a service, and there's the what they call in the restaurant business the ambiance. You often see this in reviews of restaurants. They give it an ambiance rating.
For a little sub shop?
Sure, every establishment has a level of ambiance.
Boy. Okay. I think.
Okay, well, we'll work through that one.
All right. Thank you.
Think about that one.
I am.
Okay.
As you can see, I'm thoroughly confused, but
All
I'll
right.
figure it out.
So, to give you to answer you more about myself as a counselor, I've never been in a restaurant business, but I've counseled people in the past years who wanted to get into a restaurant business, and I also am a participant in a restaurant. So, to me, a restaurant, very simply put, okay, is a little factory.
A restaurant is a fact.
It's a little factory, and
Yeah, you're right.
It takes
yeah.
ingredients and labor and provisions, and it puts it all together in a process, and it delivers to the client or the customer, in your case, a sandwich to eat, and a
Okay.
place to eat it.
We take a process of making a sandwich.
Yes,
Okay. yeah,
very much.
All right. I think I'm beginning to understand.
Now, are you working now?
A little bit, yeah. I've been sort of working at small restaurants around, usually.
So are you presently employed?
Yeah, yeah.
In what capacity?
Well, actually, it's sort of cleaning tables, things of that nature.
Okay. So you were a cook so you're not in a cooking phase in the restaurant?
Well, you know, they take a look at Navy cooking, and I didn't get a warm reception about it.
Well, because it's mass produced or in
Yeah,
bulk?
you know, all we did was take what we were given,
Right.
huge amounts, make lots of food for lots of people.
And steam table
Steam,
presentation?
or we'd open a can of Spam and we'd slice up the Spam, whatever.
All right.
You know.
Well, let me ask you a question this morning. How can I help you this morning as we're sitting here?
Well, the primary need, actually, the reason I came down was because you're part of the government, I understand.
Yes, we're sponsored by we have an office at Washington.
Yeah.
And we're in association with the Small Business
Yeah.
Administration.
And I'm a veteran,
Okay?
and I was under the impression that veterans can get money from the government to start a business.
In context, yes. But let's leave that there, all right? Just leave that as
Okay.
a resource center that we can possibly tap
All right.
with your background.
All right.
Fair enough?
Well, the focus is money, I hope.
Well, money is a resource for you to start your enterprise.
Right, okay. I think
Money
I-
is not an end in itself. Money is a resource to
Okay.
facilitate
Yeah,
your startup of a restaurant. So for me, for us to obtain a money supply, we must present a plan to someone so they know the risks they're taking.
can I go
in
back to what I
investing to you.
understand? We're
Oh,
saying
sure.
a plan, we're talking about the recipe then.
Well, the recipe is part of an overall
Okay.
business plan, and we'll get to that a bit later.
Okay. all
Okay?
right.
At this juncture, do you have any other specific questions?
Well, I think I need your
You
help,
just
but
need
when
money.
I help.
Okay.
Yeah, I need money
All
and I
right.
need your help in getting it.
So what we're going to do here, in the context of the hour we have here, is to form a task whereby this will give you a venue to get the money. Fair enough?
Task, yes, venue.
Venue. Venue means this is going to be your plan to obtain the money, and then we're going to take the plan further to get a business plan.
So it's going to be how I get from here to there.
Right. So
Okay.
what we're going to discuss, a plan to get a plan,
Okay.
a plan
all right.
within a plan.
Okay.
Okay? I might at this juncture now just explain what we are and how we're associated with the SBA. So what I'd like to do is show you some literature that I've cherry-picked out of the tons of literature and leave this with you. First of all, here's a little synopsis of the SBA, the local office. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time with it, but if you're going to deal with the government, you must know the process. And this gives you
All
the
right.
first peek at the process of working with the government, as well as all the associations they have, including our own. So in this, they talk about their loan programs, specifically.
The details of the loan program are in there.
Right.
The government doesn't give you money, they loan you money?
The government loans you money through a bank, and that's on this
Ah,
page.
okay.
It does not come directly from the government. So the bank shares the risk with the government. So it's risk sharing for startups or continuing in business. That's the purpose of it all.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
I would most assuredly read this thoroughly. Take your time with it and read it thoroughly. It's very well done,
Okay,
put out by the SBA. And
All right.
it goes through all the basics of getting started. One of the best pieces I've ever seen. And these other two pieces are put out by the Bank of America in conjunction with SCORE about basics in business. And the last one is a little pamphlet on how to really start your own business.
that sounds like me, how to really
Okay.
start my own business.
Right.
Good. Okay.
And how, the answer to that is, first thing you do, we got to develop a business plan. So my endeavor this morning is to work with you in putting together a process by which you're going to be assigned tasks to formulate a business plan.
Okay.
Okay? Fair enough? What I'd like to do and share with you as a result of my years with excuse me, SCORE, is that I've developed a tutorial for getting people started writing.
tutorial?
A tutorial. A
Okay.
tutorial, by definition, is something that it gives an outline. It teaches you how to do it. You know, as they say at Home Depot, you can do it, we can help.
I think the help is what I'm looking for.
Right.
All right.
But I can't do it alone. So what I need from you is commitment for you to take this on, and I'm going to give you a tutorial to help you initiate and carry this out.
All this is going to help me get the money.
Yes. In the end, this is all going to help you get the money.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you agree to that, let's get started.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
essentially a business plan, and as I say here, if you can't write it, you don't know it. So one of the things I want you to commit to is writing a business plan, and we're going to go through specific tasks to do that.
All right.
I might ask you one basic question, though. In the fundamental reason for anybody to go in business, including yourself, what's the fundamental reason you're going into
Well,
business?
my fundamental reason I told you is to make some money.
That's a reward.
That's the reward.
That's a reward.
Okay.
What's the fundamental reason for anybody being in business?
It's, I guess to do something for somebody else.
Exactly. To serve the need of a customer. Never
Okay.
forget that.
All
That
right.
should be always at the top of your list. Does this serve the need of the customer? Some of them will be first order, second order, and third order. But that's a fundamental question rhetorically that you should always ask. Okay?
Okay. All right.
Okay, let's embark on the business plan itself. And I'm a proponent of the title page. It's your calling card. It's the first page
Yeah,
that is
okay.
seen.
All right.
Okay? And in the title pages, it says here, in other words, you're introducing yourself, the name of your company, who are the principals, and what role will they play, very briefly. What's your legal structure? How are you going to structure it? Sole proprietor, LLC, CNS Corporation. And we'll cover that later. all right?
Thank you, because I'm not sure I know what you're talking
Right.
about. Okay.
Well, every business has a legal structure.
Okay.
De facto, if you have no formal legal structure, it's a sole proprietorship. Okay. And then last but not least, should be on the title page, is what do you deliver to the customer to serve their needs? Let's just say, what do you, in this restaurant, what deliverable do you give to the customer that serves their needs?
Well, I'm going to deliver food.
Right.
All right.
Where are you
Particularly,
going to deliver it?
I'm going to deliver it in what I call a fast casual restaurant.
Very good.
All right. And it's going to be hot subs,
Okay.
Italian, hot Italian subs
Okay.
with a great sauce.
All right.
Would that be what you're talking about?
That's
All
what
that
I'm
should be on
talking
the
about.
front page?
On the title page,
Oh,
no, I don't want a paragraph, I just want some bullets. What do I deliver? So I deliver a sandwich,
I deliver a hot sub
a
sandwich.
hot sub sandwich. It has a unique recipe,
A great Italian sauce.
right, with a sauce, and that's your byline, with the sauce.
Freshly made.
Right, freshly made. But you're giving me the attributes. What I want on the title page is
It's just hot subs with a
it's
great
a hot
Italian
sub,
sauce.
and I deliver it in a place that you can sit down and eat it, right?
Yes,
Like-
fast casual. Right.
Okay,
Okay.
very good.
All right, we'll try that.
We'll try that. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'd like the teams to get together now for 10 minutes and critique what you just saw, what you liked, what you didn't like, and how you would improve
I
it.
had to find something to respond
And then the
to.
spokesperson of your team will get up for a couple of minutes and present the findings of each of your teams. And we'll start with the spokesperson for Team 1. I thought we had decided who the spokesperson, but go ahead.
No, we really didn't decide who the I got stuck with it. At any rate, our congratulations to Dr. Robinson. His ignorance was monumental, and he really did it well. And on the other hand, our negativity towards the counselor, Mr. Batts, who was the wrong counselor. It would seem to us a failure on the part of SCORE, wherein it was our responsibility to find an appropriate counselor who had been in this very, very mysterious business, the restaurant business. And this guy don't know nothing about it. So when the initial phone call was made, we should have made a better effort to find someone who was in the restaurant business with appropriate experience. The consensus here was that he should have found out more about the client, in particular his experience and in particular his resources to be able to gauge what he was going to do and how successful he might be. Like, for instance, Mr. Robinson, how much money you got, baby? Because you're going to need money for this. We also felt that the explanation for the SBA and its focus and role in the situation was somewhat short-sighted or shortcoming, and it could have been better done. And in particular, if there was some reliance or to be some reliance on the SBA, that he be afforded the information on what he might need to get a loan from a bank guaranteed by the SBA.
One thing we'll come back to, this issue about matching the wrong counselor up with the client. I'd like to come back to it at the end of the discussion. Some of the other things you talked about is just a matter of sequence. When those things are talked about, you will see some of those things being talked about in other segments. So what we're seeing here in some of the comments is a sequence issue. This is the beginning of a counseling session. A lot of the points, if they had not been brought up in a counseling session, is correct. They should be, and you will see most of them. The significant point you brought up, which we were anticipating, is the issue of counselor-client matching them and what are the issues there. I'd like to address that as we get through teams 1 through 6. Team 2.
Chuck covered most of our comments as well. We felt that he should have covered what SCORE is on the outset, telling them that we're a national organization. We are a bunch of old fogies that are donating our time to help them not make the mistakes we made.
We felt, though, that the counselor could have given a little bit more of his own background and also prod the client for a little bit more detail also. It didn't seem like they were generating a good rapport between themselves. Possibly that is because of not knowing enough about one another. Another question we at the Peoria office do is team counsel, and I was wondering why we didn't use this demonstration to bring in team counseling as well.
At the end of the role play, you'll see a little segment about multiple counselors depending on the skills that are needed for a client. And so this session is being depicted as starting off with one, but not necessarily staying as just one counselor, depending on the needs of the client.
Again, we would echo the sentiments that have been expressed. Basically, the concern we had was that, Jim, that you were, in a way, a little bit talking down to Roger before you got into really what Roger's dream was, what his expectations were, and what his capabilities were. I mean, a brief discussion about what he did as a cook, but not much about had he done any research about buying a restaurant. Was he going to franchise one? Was he going to start from scratch? Did he have any sort of financial resources available to him? And what his dream was. And then go into your experience and background. And you deflected two questions. The first one was, do you know anything about restaurants? And then came back to it. Again, I think it would have been an ideal opportunity to talk about the depth of the counseling background that we've got in this particular chapter and the availability to bring those resources to bear, but the commonality of the plan for every type of business.
Team, where are we? 1, 2, 3, 5.
As unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, I've been appointed a spokesman for this group. We've broken our things down into 3 parts. We have the positives, we have the concerns, and we have the opportunities for improvement. A lot of it's already been said. We understand that the demonstration these gentlemen were giving was really to try to cover all the important points. So maybe it didn't flow exactly as it would have done in a regular presentation. Also, the fact that a lot of points that were brought out here, they say should have been mentioned, will be mentioned as we go along. So knowing that, the positives we felt was, first of all, Jim did introduce the client to the materials available, which was good. An awful lot of times we neglect to give him the materials. Jim briefly discussed the importance of a business plan, which of course was positive. Quick mention of legal structures, and I'm sure he'll go more into that as he goes along. And most importantly, help the client understand what the business is really about. You know, the location, how he's going to serve, what's he actually going to serve, the product is what he's going to do. So those were definitely positives. The concerns we had were help, we would have normally started out by telling the people, as somebody had said here, who SCORE is, but more important, the help that's available at SCORE. The 66 counselors, the various backgrounds that we have available, so they understand going in that this is not a this is a one-stop shop, that they can come back. Number two, I think there was a big difference in a level of understanding. I think we feel that Jim should have recognized the level of this client. The client was not highly educated. The client was really groping. And we felt that Jim was using some terms that maybe were a little difficult for the client to grasp. And sometimes that scares a client off because they're ashamed to ask, what does that mean, and so they get embarrassed. Also, I think it was important when we talked about the SBA, we should have discussed, as someone here had said, exactly how the SBA works in this. And it's very simple to do, but they guaranteed a loan and what the benefits are. The opportunities for improvement probably are to ask the client, at least initially, if they're going to write a business plan, do they need to borrow money or is this for their own benefit? Because I think the session flows differently depending upon what they're going to do. If counselor does not have restaurant experience, which I have had clients and we all have had clients, I always assure them that we're going to cover all the business points, which are very important, and then we'll then make a second appointment with Roger or Mike Blank to talk about the actual running of the restaurant. I think the client would have been a little more at ease than knowing they're talking to a counselor who really has no restaurant experience.
Two issues that came up that I'd like to talk about. The first is this issue about counselor-client, skills and the match. I think we have two camps here. One camp says if the person's a startup and has never, if the client is a startup, any counselor here should be able to counsel that client at least through the first 2 or 3 sessions and maybe right to completion, but recognizing the need that a counselor with restaurant experience is available to bring in when we get down to very specific issues. That's one camp. The other camp is saying that he should have been matched directly with a counselor who's got restaurant experience. Segment 2, this is the second piece of 3 segments of our counseling session, and we're going to pick off the last thing we talked about was the title page for the business plan. And let the counseling session begin again.
We have our title page, and now we want to move into the details of the business plan. And in my experience through the years with clients, they've taught me a lot. And one of the things that I have learned is that they're very intimidated, as you are, by the word business plan.
Right.
Whoa, business plan, okay? So I have found by doing some things that are typical and atypical, we take away the intimidation of this task, because it's a task. And I recommend to people that the first thing they do, and this will, in some quarters, will be heresy, the first thing they do is they write their executive summary. And I say, what is an executive summary?
How can I write a summary if I don't know what I'm doing?
Exactly. Exactly. But you do have a concept, you do have a vision, you do have something in your mind about this restaurant and what it's all about.
Yeah.
And we're going to go through 12 steps that I put down, okay, that will allow you to transfer from what's your head, okay, in your head, to a form which is expected in our industry. So if you'll be patient with me, we'll do that. It also will become the outline of your business plan.
I understand outline. I didn't understand summary.
Well, the
but I
outline
understand
and the summary is going to become one and the same thing.
Okay,
Because when you
all
do
right.
the summary, you're going to have an outline.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
So I like to embark on that. And I'm going to give you this, it's called the Sigma series. I'm going to give you this for your reading and taking it through step by step. But in the hour time we have here, I do want to get to these 12 steps, okay?
So there's something I've got to do beyond here. We're not going to get it all answered here.
Absolutely no.
Okay, all
I'm
right.
going to give you an overview, a macro view, and you're going to respond to that. And then I hope we'll have multiple sessions and following through with a business plan, either with me or co-counseling with other people.
Oh, others can be involved?
Others can be involved.
All right.
And what this does is your first visit, This allows us, all right, to have you prepared for the expert who may need it or may not be needed.
Oh, so there are experts available who may know, who have experience in what we're doing.
Indeed, we do. We have experts in the restaurant business.
Okay,
All right.
all right, good.
So you might consider this a preparation for the expert.
Okay, all right.
There are three basic elements in any business plan. The first element is the business model. And you might, and the business model is listed here as the fifth item in my 12. And you may say, whoa, he's going to the fifth item.
Well, I also want to know what you mean by a business model.
And we'll get to that.
Okay.
I'm picking the business model because the business model describes what you do in a process with people and with provisions.
You're talking about how I buy my supplies, how I make a sandwich, and so on,
And
things
how
like
you
that?
deliver, exactly. Every step
Deliver,
of
I mean
it.
how we give it to the customer.
How you give it to the customer.
Okay.
How you package it. How you, as they say, plate it up. and
Plate it
present
up.
to 'em.
Okay,
Okay?
all right. So you have a little restaurant experience. You said plate it up.
Yes, because I go to restaurants
Oh,
and I've
okay.
had
All right.
clients who had restaurants.
Okay.
Literally.
All right.
Okay. I've been in their restaurant. I have observed their process firsthand. Okay. These are for people who are already in the business, and I'm counseling them. So there's the business model, and the basic thing about a business model is what we call the 3 Ps. What is the process by which you apply to deliver the sandwich? What people skills are required to do that, and what provisions you must have to allow the people to practice the process.
And that'll all be detailed in the plan.
These are all details in the plan, and that's going to be one of the first tasks I give you,
All right.
is to define how you make a sandwich and deliver it to the customer, including the outside resources you use, as well as those you control directly. For instance, you've got to buy the raw materials.
Yeah,
You've got to
yeah.
buy the buns and the meat and the vegetables, et cetera.
And then we got to store them somewhere.
And you got to store them, you got to stage them, and you
Okay.
got to process them.
All right.
Okay. The second element, or you might say second pillar of any business plan, consists of a footprint of 4 items. And it's what you learned in kindergarten. Who are you? What do you do? Where are you going to do it? And who are you going to do it to?
Well, I told you who I am.
Well, we want to talk about the business now.
Oh, okay.
You
All right.
personify the business. So in that realm, you're in the market arena of a restaurant.
Right.
And you're in a
Yeah.
niche market.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a gourmet restaurant.
No, as I told you, it's fast casual.
Right.
Quick.
Exactly. So you're playing a specific role in the serving of food in this niche restaurant business. This, in playing that role, you obtain the right raw materials, you bring them in, you stage them, you inventory them, and you process them to give the customer the best possible service, because it's fast.
Oh, it's going to
And
be
we're gonna
fast.
talk
We
about-
are down where people are working all the time. They've got to get in and out real quick, particularly at lunch. I've got office people working there. I've got people who go to school in the area. Absolutely.
Very
They want to
good.
get in real quick. They want to get in and out. That's why I call it fast casual.
Very good.
That's what we're going to do. Get that food to them. Get food they like real quick.
All right, very good. Then the next item is, what specific need do you provide? And you've answered that just now. I provide a need of quick service, of good food, where they not only can eat, but have a good experience.
That's what you meant by experience.
Right.
Okay.
Whenever you eat, when you're done, there's an afterglow. That's an experience.
Well, hopefully they feel good about it, yeah.
And your
Okay.
sauce is going to make them glow, whether they want
Oh,
to
you're
or
right
not.
there, because Grandma just, she did a job with that. It's wonderful.
Okay. Then we talk about geography. You got to go where the population is going.
That, I think I've really got that nailed. I got to tell you, I'm going down, there's a place that the mayor just announced called the Medical District.
Okay.
At 3rd and Van Buren. They've got the medical school there, they've got the office there, APS is there, all of these things. And I have found a site right there.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
So, see, you've married where the population is you're going to serve to your physical geography.
Yes.
And the third thing is, who is the customer? The demographics of the customer. How old are they? What their disposable
Well,
income
a lot
is.
of students,
all right? So you got an availability situation. They're
and the
only available
faculty.
for a short time. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, through the year, they're not even going to be there.
Well, hopefully there'll be summer school.
Yes, but the population will decrease
Okay,
greatly.
we have to think about that too.
Exactly.
Okay.
And in the restaurant business in Phoenix,
Mm-hmm.
it definitely goes down in the summertime.
Yeah, that's what I've been told.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a cycle,
Mm-hmm.
not only by the month, but by the period in the year,
Yes.
and even by holidays.
Mm-hmm.
Because on holidays, there's no students around. They're gone.
Well, fortunately, the office people are around.
Right. Okay. Well, you got to balance out who your customer is. That's
Okay.
the point we're making.
All right.
The third element is how do you access the market? In other words, there's a market that you must access.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying, well, the access of the market is to have a proximity to my population. So that they
Didn't
can.
I say that? I got the people right there, and the people are right around the corner, and I just thought I
So
meant
why
to-
would they come to your restaurant?
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
I might interject here.
Mm-hmm.
In starting any business, you always have to look at what we call the incumbent. What is an incumbent?
Yeah.
That who now serves that position or office.
Oh, well, there are a lot of restaurants around
Right.
there.
Now,
Yes,
for
yeah.
you to be successful, you must identify that incumbent. You must displace them, or you will fail.
Well, we think our food and our is so great that that sandwich is so sensational it just can't miss. Is that good? I mean,
That's what you think, but what
Well,
you
Grandma
think,
has had people knocking on her door for them to make
but
sandwiches for her.
Grandma was not in a restaurant.
That's true.
I mean, and she had a closed audience. Her relatives, they didn't dare say it was bad.
Oh, there were people down the block who would come too. All right.
And if they did, all right.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's acceptance and non-acceptance. But
Okay.
that's, when we talk about market, you need to go, there's the marketplace. It's downtown. It's with that population.
Right.
Now, I've got to access that market.
Well,
and
I'm
I've
gonna-
got
I'm
to
gonna be-
also make a sale.
Yeah, but I'm going to be advertising. I'm going to be handing out flyers. I'm going to be knocking on doors. I'm going to have all kinds of specials. I'm going to do all that kind of stuff.
That's good. And that's part of your business plan, because you must
Okay.
allocate a program with a budget for that. That costs money, and it costs time.
Oh yeah. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So I'd like to come back to the, in other words, we got to three basic pillars of the business plan, okay? And I'd like to come back to the business model.
Okay.
And what I want you to do is to consider as a first task is defining the process, the people skills, and the provisions they must have to do that. Now, you start with a restaurant, especially as a building,
Right.
okay? What's your concept for the building?
Well, I think I told you the location, and
Yes.
I figured out that I'll have about 12 to 1,500 square feet available. It's not going to be real big, and we'll have enough space in there so that we'll have.
So is there a building at Third and Van Buren?
Yes, there is. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
and how did you find out about this?
Knocking on doors. I just
Okay.
went down there and walked around and knocked
So
on
you're
doors.
dealing with an agent or a broker?
They turned me over to a broker. Yes.
Okay, so you're working with that broker?
Yes, I am.
One of the things that you need to be very, very cautious of is the terms and conditions of your lease. And you are considering lease?
Yeah, I guess so. I think that's what I have to do.
I would most think so, because if you're leasing a space, you must have improvements.
Yeah.
You're investing a lot into that building.
Yeah, we got to talk
For a
about the
period of
money.
time.
Let's get back to talking about money. How
Okay.
much- Yeah. Okay.
Well, when we talk about money, all right, the business model will allow you to say, I need this money to purchase this amount of equipment, to lease this amount of space, to improve it, to install it. That's what the money's for. So we need to go through the business model to find out how much money we
all right.
need.
Okay. But can't
that-
I just do that, writing it down on a piece of paper and just figure out what the costs are and so on?
Well, you will do that, but this structures you so that you have a structure of what your startup costs are, what your running costs are, and then increasing the business. But we first got to start it up. So you've got an initial expense of startup. And a lot of it will be capital expense,
Capital, you mean dollars?
dollars.
Okay.
This is the initial investment you have just to get started. By the way, how much money do you have?
Well, you know, that's why I'm talking to you. I live in a house. They tell me it has some equity in it, and possibly about $60,000 to $70,000 of equity, they call it. That's what the bankers told me it's worth. So that'll be a start, I guess. And they tell me also that for restaurants I've been talking around with people, and they say I'll probably need a couple $100,000 total. So I'm really looking to try to work with you to raise that difference.
Okay, so you're not far off on a couple $100,000.
Yeah, no, I know it's going to take some real money.
So what we need to do is formulate, all right, a plan to take to the bank, so to speak, saying
Okay.
this is my initial investment in this, and I need some money, this is my share, I want you to share it with me. And the SBA, indeed,
Oh,
Guard-
I'm a little confused. The SBA, we talked about SBA, now we're talking about a bank. How do they come together?
well, I assumed, and I got a little ahead of myself here. If you're going for an SBA loan with a bank that indeed is a guaranteed lender with the SBA, they, in conjunction with the SBA, share the risk. They both share the risk, though. It's not just a one-way guarantee. So the bank has a risk and the SBA has a risk. Now, because of a risk factor, they're going to ask for more equity down because your risk factor is high. And in a
Okay.
restaurant, in your case, they might ask as high as 40% down.
40%, that means about $80,000 more or less?
Yes.
Okay.
Because of the risk factor. Now, if you had been in the restaurant business and you were going to start another one, might be another case. But that's not unprecedented. So when we talk about money, you should consider not only the equity, but are there other sources of money? Friends, relatives, insurance policies, retirement funds, whatever. You should look at all of those.
Have to look at all those things.
Right.
All right.
In other words, I want to emphasize, money is a resource for you to implement your plan. Consider it as
getting
a
that
resource.
idea.
All right.
Okay, I'm getting the
Point
idea.
is, get the plan down. What is it going to cost you to start it? What is it going to cost you to run it? Okay? If we may now slide into, okay, what we call the 4 C's, because this is going to give you a factor of whether this restaurant is really viable. So let's talk about your restaurant and your delivery. And that's just for the sake, assume that it is a lunch business, which you mentioned before.
Yeah, and the lunch hours, they tell me in that area, are roughly from 11:30 until 2.
Okay, so your activity period is in that slot.
Right.
So we must look at what we call the capacity for you to deliver in that slot. How many sandwiches can you deliver in those peak hours?
Well, I can make a sandwich every 5 minutes. That's all it takes.
Okay.
And then we can go through. So
If
we've
I
got
may
all the
say
time.
so, that seems a long time.
Well, we're allowing the time from the moment the customer comes up to the counter
Okay.
to where the sandwiches
Right.
meet. And remember, it's a toasted sandwich, and then pays for the sandwich.
I like what you're saying, but you said make the sandwich. You didn't say deliver the sandwich.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So it's gonna have to take you much less time than 5 minutes to make the sandwich.
Okay, I included the whole
Study
thing.
the fast food people. They've got it down to the second, okay?
Boy, okay.
McDonald's delivers,
Yeah.
makes up the
okay,
sandwich.
Right, yeah,
Well, but they can do it,
Yeah,
like in
true.
2 minutes and 30 seconds.
right. But
Okay.
they still have to get it out to the customer. The customer has to
Exactly,
walk
and there's
through
a
the table.
time period in there,
Yes,
but you
yeah.
got to think about the biggest improvement will be in making the sandwich. Because without the sandwich, you have nothing.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I thought the biggest improvement was
So
going to be in the taste.
what
taste of
numbers
the
have you
sandwich.
come up with? Because that is capacity. Capacity relates directly to income.
Okay, I think I understand what you're saying.
Okay, well, how many sandwiches can you deliver in 3 hours?
Well, I'll just use that 5-minute factor and divide it into the time.
All right, and I'm
Okay,
not,
that-
and I'm
that
not trying to
makes-
put you
yeah,
on the
yeah,
spot, but
right.
that's one of the tasks that you need to address. In that time slot, how
Right.
many sandwiches can I deliver?
Yeah.
Okay, in that time slot, because that's directly revenue. Sandwiches equal revenue.
So I have to do pencil and paper. I have to figure that out.
Yes, you do,
Okay.
okay?
All right.
And I want you to take the first cut at it, and I'm always here to help you, all right?
Okay. All right.
Now, the second C is, what is the limitation of the capacity of your enterprise? So we talk about capacity, and then we talk about the next C is capability. how could you increase the capability? Well, we can do by having the process of ordering and delivering faster, as well as actually making it. And you may want to have some of this stuff pre-made, but you've got to get it down to a process by the second. So you need people to do that, and you need the provisions to
Okay,
do that.
all right.
So not only are the fixtures and the units and the tools there, the process becomes of prime importance because you've got a time slot this long.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Now, the other thing you consider for capability is can I increase the hours? And is it all going to be eating in, or is there a takeout? Because if I have takeout,
Oh, I like that. That's good. That's good.
Okay.
I like that. Yeah.
so you want to consider for fast food, they come in, just as the other people do it. By the time they get around to the corner, the guy orders it, they got the thing ready. It's there. Okay. So you're
So
using the
they-
same capital equipment, you're using the same people.
So the guy who came in at minute one of the 5 minutes, by the time he gets up to that register at the end of it, somebody else has already been, food has started.
And I want you
Okay.
to think
Oh,
about
okay.
how, first of all, do your basic business model. Then say, well, my business model is limited by, my capability can be increased by, and then put that down. What's the critical path for you giving more capacity?
Okay.
The next C is, what does it cost you to deliver that sub sandwich?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Including all costs, direct material, direct labor,
What about the sandwiches I eat? Do I have to worry about my food cost in there too?
absolutely, and all your employees. So it's part of wastage.
Okay.
Because if it
all
isn't
right.
getting to the customer, it's wastage. So what isn't going in the garbage can, or what is going transferred out the back door, that's waste.
But even if it goes in the garbage can, it means I didn't sell it.
That's right.
Okay.
Whatever it is, you didn't sell it. There's no revenue from it.
Ah.
You may
Okay.
have made some people happy, but you got no revenue.
All right.
So that should be included in your cost. Do you have someone who can, so to speak, count your beans?
Count my beans.
Right.
What does that mean?
That means accounting system.
Oh,
the
you mean count the
numbers.
money, track
Right.
of the money. Yeah, we're going to use a company. I have an uncle who used to be a bookkeeper. And
Okay.
he's a little old now. He's probably in his 80s, but he can still use an
The only
adding
thing I
machine.
would consider, and I'm all for the uncle, but
Mm-hmm.
with our computer science these days, and it's especially good in accounting,
Mm-hmm.
I would think you should consider some software which is available online, because you need to know your costs. 80% of businesses who start up, and this is a fact, do not know their real costs.
Wow, that I didn't know.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
80% of businesses in a startup do not know their costs. I mean, familiar saying, well, I'm going to not pay myself for the first year.
Yeah, sure, because the money that I make at the end, that's my profit.
All
That's
right.
it's,
But you see, you should include in your cost payment, even though you may not pay yourself. As far as you're concerned, the company's getting you for nothing. Always consider the company as a third party. And your
yeah,
employee.
but it's my company.
Fine, but your company, from a structure viewpoint, is a third party, and you work for the third party. What if you wanted to hire someone to do your job? What would you pay?
That would be a cost.
That
yeah.
would be a
That would be a
cost.
cost.
All
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So we've covered the business model, all right? We now, and by de facto, what has happened is you've covered your identity, who you are, the market area you're in, who you are. You've covered the need you provide. You've covered the geography and the customer. The business model, to test your business model, you got to ask yourself, does my business model fit the need and fit the purpose of my identity, of who I am, what I provide, where it happens, and who the customer is? It's a balance act.
Yeah, but I think it does. It's
Fine,
Yeah.
that's, but you want to get that on a piece of paper.
I keep forgetting that piece of paper.
And then the third item, which we'll discuss in the next segment, is how you access the market. What
Okay.
aspects of the market, how do you access them? How do you make a sale? How do you get somebody to come in, sit down, and order a sandwich?
Okay, we're going to start in reverse order this time. We're going to start with 6 and now work our way back to
A
1.
couple of things. First of all, some observations, and I think it's important. I don't think you have to be a restaurant expert for the first couple of meetings. I think we can all do a good job to get them past that point. Second of all, I think Jim did a great job in bringing out the many points that Roger needs to think about. The group in general felt that he was hitting with too many points too fast, and because of his educational level and background, maybe he wasn't able to follow it as quickly as he probably could have. Some of the positives were Jim alluded to assigned tasks that he was going to give him and set Roger up for future sessions, which was very good. Jim defined Roger's input as to how it should be used. And everything Roger said, Jim explained to him how that would be used in a plan. You know, how you serve, where you serve, who you serve. Very important issues, obviously. Jim discussed the need to research acceptance of the product. We usually tell our group, and Roger and I do the Start Smart, you know, just because Grandma thinks it's great doesn't mean you're going to sell the thing. But I think Jim let Roger understand that he probably needs to do a little more research. So those were very positive things. A couple of concerns we had as a group was Jim did not determine if the client even qualified for a loan. Really was no sense in taking him through this entire procedure without finding out what he had. He had a couple of dollars in cash. You know, did he have any collateral? Did he have 5 credit cards that were maxed out and just bought a Ford truck, $30,000 truck with $100 down? He's not going to get a loan. So you know, we tell our clients they need to clear that up first. So that was a concern of the group. We felt that Jim may have been going a little too fast. I think Roger got a little confused. Jim was speaking to him, well, I mean, he acted well. Jim was speaking to him on a different level, and I felt, and I think the group felt, that sometimes a client is afraid to ask you what you mean because they don't want to look stupid after the first couple of times. So what they do is they turn their mind off and they're not listening to the rest. So I think maybe he needs to go a little bit slower considering the level of the client. Some of the other concerns we had, the general accepted method for writing a business plan, at least in 100 years I've been doing it, is to write the business plan and then write the executive summary. Now, I know Jim likes to talk about writing an executive summary first. I'm not sure how that has to be done, but I'm going to talk to Jim afterwards. He's still using terms such as micro view and various things that I'm sure Roger did not understand. And Jim talked a lot about the business model, but never really defined what a business model is and what a business plan is. So those were the issues. But overall, I've done a great job following the script terrifically.
A couple of comments. I think you're right on in terms of your comment about squeezing stuff in. And one of the predicaments we had as a team was trying to demonstrate a counseling session that really occurs typically over more than 1 hour. So we're putting stuff in here that typically might have happened in the second or third counseling session. The other issue is important, the issue about need in the marketplace and how do you quantify that? How do you know that Grandma's sauce is really a good sauce? And as you pointed out, the big guys spend money by test markets, focus groups, surveys, and the little guy ain't got the ability to do that. But they can do something, not to reach a sure conclusion, but they can bring some people together and have them taste it. They can make some calls. They can do something towards saying, yeah, this is a product, there's a need out in the marketplace, and I've got a good chance of being successful because I've got a nice product. It's a wide range of capabilities, but to ignore it totally, saying you just can't do it because you ain't got the money, is not the way to approach it. To try at least to do something to quantify the need in the marketplace for your product or service.
Well, basically, agreeing with what you said, Marty, the group did. The group also felt that Jim might still be a little pedantic in talking to Roger in terms of, I'm teaching you the structure as opposed to understanding the client's needs. And in that, subsequent discussions that he had began to get Roger questioning what he was doing, and that was good. When you started talking about costs, well, I didn't think about that, and I didn't think about that, and I didn't think about that. And that's what our questionings are supposed to provoke, things like that. It was pointed out, again, that an industry knowledgeable person would be able to say, well, you know, when you start producing goods, your food cost should be about 30%. Your personnel cost should be about this. And those are the type of things that he can begin to put a fence around what he's trying to do. And that's why it's nice to have an industry person who may understand some more traditional industry ratios and sources of information, where to go to find out. Because clearly, at Roger's stage, where he is right now, it was discussed that he's probably not ready to put a business plan together yet until he understands more about the business that he's trying to get into. And perhaps formulating the business plan is going to drive it, but maybe he just needs some more research and needs to go with a set of questions on it, and that he may, the jumping into the business plan may be a little preemptive at this point in time. Is that basically? Okay. I think I've said what the group said.
I think Jim talked about a plan for a plan, namely laying out the plan to get to the business plan. One thing I'll pick up on is this term that Tom used called ratios. This is something you can get at a reference library and at any business reference library. And what are ratios? It's a relationship of typically your cost to your revenue. So, or your cost of goods sold to your revenue. So for example, in the restaurant business, they have restaurants broken out by gourmet restaurants, fast food, and things in the middle. And they say for the typical fast food restaurant, the cost of food should be 28, 30% of your revenues. Your labor should be 15 or 20% of your revenues. And they have those kinds of numbers for every industry around. And they're pretty good stuff in terms of guiding your clients, in terms of whether their numbers are not exactly that, but within reason to those standard ratios. And I would share that stuff with all my clients in terms of seeing if they're in the ballpark. They'll tell them if their lease costs are too high, or it'll say, I've got to generate this much revenue in order for my lease costs to be reasonable, and can I generate this much revenue? Anyway, those ratio numbers are really important. Let's bring it open to the floor for a few minutes. Bill?
Is it
Bill?
proper to ask a person's credit score early in the game?
You can, I think I asked the question, is your credit score good or bad?
Well, either way.
Specific. And if it's bad, I know I take a certain path. If it's good, I take another path. We are going to start up segment 3, the last segment of the session. And I turn it over to Mr. Robinson and Mr. Batts.
All right. So we've discussed the 3 pillars of the business plan.
Right.
The first pillar has a footprint of who you are, what you do, where you're going to do it, and who are you serving.
So all that goes into the plan.
That all goes into the plan. That's one pillar, okay? The second pillar is your business model, and I might want to just recap. A business model describes how you're adding value with material and labor and your intelligence. For instance, your grandmother's recipe is intellectual property. So you're bringing intellectual property into it. You're bringing your know-how of cooking, okay? And you're and you're saying, I have something by which taking the ingredients of the sandwich and processing it in a certain way and delivering it to the customer in an ambiance of eating it,
There's that word
they're
again.
going to have experience.
All
I
right.
want you to keep that word in mind.
Yeah, I am.
Because every restaurant has an ambiance.
I'm going to have to look it up.
Okay, good. I wish you would. And write out that definition. Now, next time we see each other, I want that defined by you.
All right, thank
Not
you.
only as a dictionary definition, but your definition.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I'll take it a step farther. You ought to go into one or more restaurants, and after you look it up, define the ambiance in that restaurant.
Should I be dealing with restaurants that are similar to the one I'm thinking of?
I would do similar ones, and I would do ones outside your box,
Outside my box.
or outside your purview, your
Oh,
boundary.
Okay, all right.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. The third thing we want to look at is market access. Now, one of the challenges you have, just generally, is the geography you're in and the exposure your clients are going to have to you. And you're talking about students and office workers,
Right.
people who want a quick lunch.
Right.
And if, probably even to the extent that someone wants a quick lunch with conversation, they can do that. What would be a typical turnover for a client who would come into your place that you see?
Well, if they're just coming in and they get that sandwich and we can get them through that line in no more than 5 minutes,
Yes.
you're making me think that I've got to find a way to even speed that up.
Right?
Yeah. And then if they sit down at one of the tables,
Yes.
maximum should be another 15 minutes.
All right. But in that 15 minutes, someone must say, have a quick lunch with me, or a student discussing something.
Right.
You know. So what I'm saying is that's part of the ambiance.
Oh, okay. So the tables and chairs you're talking about.
Oh, absolutely. What music are you playing? Or do you play any music? What's the lowest noise level in a place? So the business model is a cost center.
Well, where does the money come to me then?
The
Doesn't that
money
show up in
comes
the
to
business
you as a
model?
result of making a sale. All right?
Isn't that part of the business model?
No, the business model is strictly a cost center. The business model says, just like a franchise, if you follow this process with these people, with these provisions, you can make a sandwich and it costs so much to make that sandwich and
Oh, there's
deliver
a
it to
cost,
the customer.
but
Now, you
yeah.
sell it, you put a price on it,
Right.
okay? The difference between your cost and the price is your gross profit. To make this sale, we have to talk about the market access. So you've got all of these people, all these students down
Right.
there, and all these office workers. How am I going to get them to come into my establishment?
Okay.
Now, there's two ways. There's the direct way, which is the most efficient way. You know, literally, if I could grab them by the arm and bring them in,
And I'm going to have people out there trying
right?
to do
And
that.
people do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then there's the other aspect, what I call business to business. In other words, the university itself is a source. The office building is a source. I mean, they may want to say, hey, go down to that place and get me 5 hot subs.
Right.
So what you want to do is promote that within the office complex. You want to
We're
make
planning
yourself
on doing
visible.
that. Yeah, we're
All
going
right.
to be knocking on doors. Absolutely.
Okay. So what I'm saying is there's one aspect of marketing where it's business to business because they become your marketing arm. The other aspect is where you do it directly, and you are the marketing arm. You do have the placards. I noticed lately they have a fashion of people standing out there waving signs,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sure.
which is good.
And we're going to give people lots of T-shirts and stuff like
Right.
that. So
But
they'll
that's
talk about
direct
us. Yes.
marketing. Now, the more direct you can make it, the better. Now, when you're starting up, I'm a great believer in promoting, in the word free, F-R-E-E.
We're going to have a great big grand opening with lots of free food. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, in the concept of that, okay, you should be thinking about promoting your product, and people are attracted to the word free. You know, get 2, I'll give you 1. But you never give anything away. I don't believe in giving anything away.
All right.
Okay.
How do
I
do
believe
that?
in giving you something for your commitment to me. In other words, if you buy 2, I'll give you 1.
Oh, those little cards you see people get that
Exactly.
you get punches and every time you get it
Exactly.
filled up? Sure.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to be doing that.
That sort of thing. And I want you to think about that. All right?
Okay. All right.
But in the end, to access the market and to make a sale, you must have a product that they will buy. The automobile companies are learning that today. Okay.
Yeah. Particularly.
So what I
the-
want you to do as a task, and it's one of my points here, is describe your deliverable, and I want you to make a spreadsheet with 3 columns. What are the features, advantages, and benefits of your
What greater
sandwich?
feature than it's fast and it tastes great?
That is a feature, okay?
Okay.
The feature is I can get it to you in 5 minutes. All right? So that's a feature. What's the advantage of that feature? So what? So it's 5 minutes. What's the big deal?
Well, if you're in a hurry, that's the advantage.
Okay. Then the benefit of the customer, he gets immediate service.
Immediate service and they satisfy the hunger.
Okay. But I want you to go through all of the aspects. For instance, the very makeup and ingredients, the recipe for your sandwich. You know, grandmother's hot sauce.
Right.
Okay? That's a feature.
Right.
You should talk about the hot sauce.
Right. What about the fact that everything is fresh?
Fine, and I even would go so far these days, make it organic.
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 Isn't that costly?
Well, it may be costly, but how much are you? I would just go, what do you think you're going to charge for your sandwich?
Well, we're sort of thinking that by the time they have a drink and a sandwich, it should come to about $8.50.
Okay, how much for the sandwich?
$6.50.
Okay. How does that compare to Subway, the big franchise?
It's more money than Subway.
How much more?
It's about double.
It's about double.
About double.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we talk about your deliverable and the features, advantages, and benefits, the first thing I'm going to do as a customer, I'm going to give you a value judgment as compared to Subways, because that's where the last time I got a Subway. I say, whoa, there's twice the price here.
Yeah, but it's going to be, first of all, the amount of food is going to be that much more
Okay,
than
but
Subway
then you
gives.
got to put that in your features, advantages, and benefits.
Okay, I see
The
what
amount
you're
of food as compared to Subways is 4 more ounces of salami, or whatever it
saying.
is.
And whatever, all the meats that go into
Right.
it, and cheese.
And you always get the sauce.
And the sauce is there.
Right.
And the sauce is our secret.
So what I am saying, okay, I want you to do as a first task is to put down what you think is your competitive advantage, that you're going to charge twice as much, okay,
All right.
as compared to your competitor, and they're going to buy 3 times as many.
Well, we're planning on that. We
Well,
hope
and
so.
I'm making
Yeah.
a point with you.
Right,
Okay,
yeah.
it's not good enough just to be like Subways. You got to be better than them.
Well, we're going to educate them. We're going to teach them what good
What
sandwiches
is
are.
educating of a customer?
Having them taste the product.
Exactly. So they got to make that purchase. So the
Wow.
first thing they're going to go through, and I'm not disagreeing with your price, but the first hurdle you have is charging twice as much as
Right.
Subway. How do you compare to Quiznos?
I don't even know if there's one nearby. I don't know.
It's irrelevant whether it's nearby. How do you compare with them?
Quiznos is more than Subway.
Okay, how much more?
Now you're going to have to make me go out
Okay,
and do
now
some
you need
research.
to do some yes, you
Yeah,
need some
okay.
quantitative study of this.
Okay.
Okay? You need to do some, what I call some legwork. You need to pound the pavement, compare the prices, taste their product.
Visit your competitors.
Exactly. Visit them, and if it's possible, go to work for them.
Go to work for them.
Go to work for them. Become a waiter at Quiznos. Become a waiter at Subways.
Oh,
So you can find out what's going on the inside.
you know, never thought of that.
As a matter of fact, in my past life, okay, I was a consultant. Worked for a big company.
Yeah.
And one of the first things we would do for any company, no matter where they were, and we do it subtly, is I would know where all their garbage was. I wanted to know what was being
It's going to be
thrown
in a can
out.
out behind the
Exactly.
store. Yeah.
Because that indicates to me how much waste product they have. And
Oh, I see.
everybody has it.
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
Okay?
uh-huh.
The second thing I would do is go to the employee's restroom. Not the restroom
Well,
of the executives.
if I work the place, that'll be easy. Yeah,
Right.
Okay.
I'm just making some points because
Okay.
they indicate a attitude of the company toward what they're doing and how they treat their employees. It's just my experience, and you'd be surprised what you learn about that. The third thing we looked at is the receptionist. It's your first indicator with the customer. When you come in the door, you park in a certain place. Another thing we
Is
checked
that
was,
part of what you're talking about when you use that word ambiance?
Yes,
Ambience,
that's part of
ambience,
it.
yeah, okay,
that's part of it.
okay, all right.
So when I drive up to your establishment, some basic things. Where do you park? Downtown
Yeah,
is a
yeah,
parking
yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
So is it going to be strictly street traffic?
That's what we're thinking about,
Okay.
yes, yes.
What's your signage? What kind of security do you have?
Well, we're going to lock the doors at night,
What kind of doors?
glass doors, so
Okay.
people can
You
see
may
in.
want to think about that. You're downtown at 3rd and Van Buren.
Okay, all right.
So there's signage, there's parking, there's security. And you're thinking about the security of the client.
I see, okay, all these things have to be looked at.
They have to be looked at. Because
And
as I, as a customer, when I go to your place, okay, I am either directly or indirectly checking you out.
Okay,
If
so
I
all
don't have
that-
to park, how do I get in? How
So
do I
all that goes
insert?
into the plan?
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, what we're doing, okay, we're putting in elements of the plan and coming together, we're gonna compound them for you to have a plan when it's all done. In other words, it's the elements of something put together that form a presence of your company. And your company has a presence. Your restaurant has a presence.
Yeah.
And the biggest presence is the product.
Oh, that's what we're going to be selling,
So,
yeah.
again, I want to reiterate what your deliverable is. I want you to do a spreadsheet with features, advantages, and benefits of your particular restaurant.
Do you have something that reminds me of all these things I have to do?
Yes, I do. I'm going to be giving you
Oh, okay.
a document,
All right.
and all this is detailed listed,
Mm-hmm,
okay? So all that's listed. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about, and you've been talking about money,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to price this product for a certain price, and we've said that.
Right.
Now you need to reflect what's your cost. We've talked
Okay.
about that
All
before,
right.
but you need to know your cost, not only the direct cost, direct labor, direct materials, but all the overhead, your telephone bill, your lease agreement, your equipment upkeep, your inventory, because inventory costs you something. When you buy inventory, that is a in-process goods to be processed that
So
you're
I need
putting money into.
for inventory. Okay,
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
In addition to equipment. and
In
things like
addition
that.
to equipment.
Okay.
The equipment only provides the means for people to process the food,
Okay. All
but
right.
they gotta have something to process. So
Okay,
you need
all
to
right.
have suppliers.
Okay.
And in the next couple of sessions, we have what we call outside resources.
Couple of sessions? You mean I'm going to get to see you more often?
Yes.
How often can I see you?
You can see me as often as you're ready. Because I'm gonna give you some tasks. If you're ready, you come back.
You give me homework.
I'm gonna give you some homework, and we're gonna get to that.
Oh, okay. All right.
But I want to talk, one of the points I make is cost versus price, so you know what your gross profit is. In other words, for every sandwich I sell, it costs me this much, with everything applied, all my costs completely, including your salary. Okay.
Including myself.
Including
You got me
yourself.
back working for the
Yes,
company
yes,
again.
I do.
Okay. All right.
Okay?
Okay.
What does it cost me to deliver that sandwich? Including the wrapping you put on it, everything, including your calling cards, the electricity to
See,
keep the sign
when
on.
I was in the Navy, we never had to worry about costs, so it's a whole new thing to me.
Because they gave you, you were a worker in the Navy. You were an enlisted man.
I wasn't the cook, I was a worker. Okay, all right. Okay.
Yeah, you were a cook,
Yeah.
but you were a worker.
Okay, all right.
Believe me, I was in the Navy as an enlisted man,
yeah.
and I was assigned to the kitchen.
Yeah.
So I know what you did with me.
Now you know that I peeled potatoes. Now you're getting to it. All right.
The other thing I want you to consider, in the business model, okay, and then in the business model as a cost center follows the 4 C's, and I'm going to repeat them again.
Yeah.
Your capacity, your capability, your cost, and your cash. All right? Now, we talked about you're going to be operating at noon hours, and we talked about a maximum capacity that you could deliver in that sweet spot.
So I've got to figure all that out.
You got to figure that out. Now, once you figure that out, you will come up with a figure saying, if I'm running at 100% capacity, and let's just use for a figure 100. Let's use that word, that
Okay.
number, 100.
All right.
I can do 100 of these.
Right.
I want you to assign what your price is, okay, and show me your gross revenue
All right.
based on your capacity,
Okay.
what your revenue is going to be at running at 100% capacity.
Okay.
And once you get that done, I mean, it's a little arithmetic.
Okay.
Then I want you to take another task, and I want you to take 80% of your capacity. In other words, you only utilize 80% of your maximum. Okay?
Okay.
You can drive her at 100, but I want you to go back to 80. Why do I say that? It gives you a viability of what your task is.
A what?
Viability. Is this business viable? Is it something that really can go forward? Does it have substance?
Can I look that word up too?
Sure. viable means is, very simply, is it possible to do this?
Oh, okay, 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 all right,
In a bigger context, but you'll find that out when you look up the word.
all right, okay.
Now, so I want you to do an 80%, and I want you to look at the revenue then, all right? And looking at your cost versus your revenue, will the numbers come out that running at 80% capacity, that this business is possible to operate?
Question.
Yeah.
You described all these things that I have to do. Are there not, and you know, you talked about a little bit about computers.
Right.
Is there some resource that I can go to online where I can get some ideas of how to do this, or can I only do it with you?
Well, you certainly can, I can share it with you, and there are some things online, but what I'm asking you to do is a very simple arithmetic.
Okay, all right.
Now, I will say this, in the appendix of my plan, which I will
Oh,
give to
okay,
you,
all right.
I've got some little worksheets here to do, and you
Oh,
can
that will be
pencil it in.
That will be a big
And
help.
I believe in penciling it in first before you go to the computer, with a pencil with an eraser on it.
Oh, I get you, all right, okay.
So now what we've called is we know what we can do 100%. We know what our revenue is going to be at 80%. Then what I want you to do, okay, because you're going to have some figures of costs and overhead. What's the lowest amount that you can sell and still keep the lights on?
What about rent? Don't I have to pay rent too?
Yeah, that's all. In other words, you have fixed costs.
Oh, okay, oh, you
So
mean
you
all
look
costs?
at your all costs.
Okay,
You look at the fixed cost, and you ask yourself, how many sandwiches must I sell
Okay.
just to
I think I see
pay
where you're going.
my expenses,
I think
including your salary?
Including me?
Yes.
Okay, all right, okay. I think I get it.
And that's called the break-even point.
You know, I've heard the phrase before, thank you.
That's
Okay,
break.
okay.
I mean, the accountants get into some sophisticated formulas. Don't be concerned about that. If you want, I can give that to you, but don't be concerned about that.
right.
All I want to know is, very simply, how many sandwiches you must sell to break even,
Including myself,
including yourself,
okay.
because you're part of the enterprise.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to share with you is a little bit more about SCORE and what we do, and some
Okay.
other services that we associate with, some other resources. And one of the ones that I think is extremely important, and you are computer literate?
Well, you know, I know how to
Okay.
turn it
Do
on.
you have
and-
a computer?
Yeah. yeah.
Okay, that's the first
Okay,
base.
okay.
I was going to say, if you don't have a computer, you can go to a local library, get
No,
online.
fortunately, I have one.
Okay. I suggest you go to this website, the Arizona Department of Commerce.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And they have, and then subsequently follow these directions. Just click on, and they have a checklist for starting businesses.
Oh, that'll be
I
a help.
really
Okay.
recommend that.
Okay.
Okay. The third aspect I want to share with you is that we have a series of workshops and seminars.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I want you to do these in conjunction with. In other words, oftentimes I found people, they want to go to the seminar and then they do this. I want you to be working in parallel with me in this business plan. At the same time, attend all the seminars you can.
All right.
And we have a whole series of them, ones on
Well,
intellectual
Are
property.
they day or night?
They're both. And I'm going to let you read them.
Oh, okay.
And it's very well defined. But there's sales training, web-based marketing, intellectual property, how to buy and sell a business. And that is an avenue
Okay.
that you may or not want to seek in purchasing a business instead of starting it.
Oh, I never thought of that. Okay. All right.
And it tells you how to register, et cetera.
All right.
Okay? The third thing I want to discuss with you is our premium series, our survival series.
Survival. Okay.
Right.
All right.
It's called Small Business Survival Series. This is in the daytime hours. It covers business plans, marketing, bookkeeping, and cash flow.
Okay.
The next series, I believe, starts in March. You do not have to do these in sequence, but I recommend you do. We also have a loan clinic. And downstream, once you have your business plan put together, you might want to attend these loan clinics because this is where the participating banks in the SBA are represented one-on-one. They're there in the flesh, okay? We have also a Start Smart with SCORE, and I recommend this. It'd be exception not to recommend this. And we have a particular grand session coming up on March the 3rd. It is part of the Entrepreneur Week.
Okay.
And
all
at
right.
that session, we're doing something very special. Not only are we having the Start Smart seminar, but we're going to have a cadre of counselors there to do one-on-one counseling,
The cadre, a bunch.
a bunch,
Okay,
a group.
a group.
Okay. And that will allow people to come in and either go to the seminar or get one-on-one counseling. I recommend you go to the seminar.
All right.
It's very
Does it
comprehensive.
matter whether I go to this one before these, or does it not matter?
I recommend going to this one first,
Okay.
okay? Because it gives you an overview.
All right, yeah.
And then this gets very specific. All right. And then the last but not least is Business Plans Plus.
Okay.
Okay, now, your task, okay, for the
Okay.
next session that we have is to define your business model, covering the 3 Ps, and then going one step further to develop your 4 Cs using 100% capacity, 80% capacity or utilization, and break-even capacity,
Okay,
okay?
all right.
We can make an appointment out here,
I would like that.
and we will meet with you and do it right online.
Okay.
I thank you for being patient and for listening.
Thank you for all the help.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to critique segment 3, which is the last segment. We're going to do 3, 4, 1, 2, and 5. 3, 4, 1, 2, 5. 3, start us off.
Okay, in general, we thought this third session was probably the best of the 3 in terms of content and everything else. However, a couple of points that we think could have been, particularly near the end when he was summarizing things for the client to do, he might have suggested that he take some notes so he doesn't forget. The other thing, too, is when he started talking about our workshops and seminars, he probably should have put Start Smart first, because that's the one we really want the people to go to. Somewhat feeling that maybe Jim was lecturing a little too much. There didn't seem to be too much of a participation by Roger.
Okay.
Our group would also concur that this was the best of the 3 segments. The primary reason being that Jim and Roger got into a back and forth dialogue of things that Roger could use to understand going in this business. And Jim was very specific about making sure that Roger had some things to do, even though Roger didn't take notes. And that was noted by our group too, is how serious is Roger about this? He's letting everything kind of slide on by except looking up a definition or two. The other thing that was discussed is that Roger's concept of the business should have been perhaps challenged a little bit. In that, okay, you want to serve just hot Italian sandwiches. Perhaps a little bit more about, are you going to serve dessert? Are you going to serve, what kind of drinks are you going to serve? Things like that to get, again, dialoguing to think about the type of business that you're going into. Good discussions about expanding the capacity, but not a discussion until I think we're toward the real end about how to maximize revenue. And that's when you got into your 80%, 100%, 80% type thing. But how to round it out. And again, Duncan talking about the feasibility study, that's the sort of thing that would be prime. But once again, I think the group said, this guy's too early to be launching into the specifics of a business plan. It was suggested that really what needs to be done is understand and challenge what he wants to do, and then give him some industry sources to go do some research on. fastandcasual.com, some other places to go see and do some research, and then come back and let's talk about, has your concept changed? Now let's talk about what you really want to do and putting a plan together to do it. But more the basic business research. Did I miss anything? I'm sure I did, but anyhow.
I think your comment about challenge is right on. Having sat in with Jim in a lot of co-counseling, he is at the top of the list in terms of challenging it just in surface here. But yeah, don't just accept the client's model. The model could be improved, modified, or whatever. That's a good point. Five? I'm sorry.
A couple of observations we made. The counselor spoke about a mile a minute, obviously trying to keep up the schedule, did very little listening to the client. Not once did I hear the counselor ask the client if he understood any of what he was saying. The counselor was presenting tasks about a mile a minute. All kinds of tests that had to be done, studies to be done. Again, didn't write anything down, and I wonder if the client even understood any of it, let alone remembered it.
I think what I can take away from this thing is that there is a different approach that we all take when we sit down with a client. Jim has his way, everybody else does too, but you eventually have to get to the basic that we all talk about, and that's the business plan. So how you approach that, I guess, is one thing where future seminars of this type can stress. Maybe we get a uniform, maybe we don't, but the point is that it is the backbone of what we counsel on. We felt good that he emphasized research and homework. Homework is one thing we may all, I know I forget about it a lot, to tell them that they have to do the job, but necessarily to report back so I can grade you, type of thing. But it was a good session, I certainly appreciate it.
Thank you. Couple of things that happened outside the role playing. Jim steps out of the room. Jim makes out a 641.3. He goes directly to the E3 system. Doesn't wait till he gets home, or waits a couple of days. He goes and gets that 641.3 entered at that point in time. He makes a note in his calendar to call the client back 3 or 4 days before the next appointment to get the dialogue going. That happens all outside the role playing. The role players would like to get up for a couple of minutes and just make a few points. Roger?
Thank you. Let me put my other persona on for a moment now. As a pedagogical experience, I was impressed by all that happened. I think this was a great teaching tool to introduce all of us to what we should be doing. We learned by the observation that all the groups were developed, and sharing it, I think, was just terrific. The value of teams and discussions here is enormous. I have to compliment everyone on that. The other thing that I think occurs out of this, and you made the point, several of you have, is that we all have our individual strengths and weaknesses. And as long as we recognize that and know where to go to overcome those weaknesses, I think that's going to make us very successful. And the third point, I want to reinforce what Bob just said. This guy had the tough job. All I had to do was be here or just play act, right? He had the real tough job, and I think he deserves a hand for it, really. The other thing to reinforce what Bob said, the secret of his success, because he does have more continuing relationships than any of us, is this level of commitment. This is a commitment that I think the more we reinforce it, the more we're going to see our strengths and our values grow. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I must say that the constraints of what we had to do, and that was well formed, and we orchestrated this, and it's come out different every time, which I think is good. But it did hamper my style, I got to admit that. Breaking it up and then starting again, or where was I, and how do I get this thing going? And
Okay, this concludes the class. We'd like to get some work from you. We need help. We want to give this class regularly. We want to make it better. We want to look at this class as a continuous improvement environment, where next time we do this, we become better than what we did it this time. We had some suggestions. Ray has taken some notes. The notes are going to be published. Hopefully we'll use that as a reference tool. But please look at your evaluation sheets, and please put some energy into it. Don't just check the boxes, but make some notes, write some sentences. They will all help us give you a better class about a year from now. Thank you.